The Charlotte Hornets win their 5th game in a row. A bunch of Hornets step up in clutch time situations, including LaMelo Ball at the very end. We'll talk about it all today on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
You are Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen and checking us out on all the free platforms that are available to you. That includes YouTube, by the way. You can follow us on Twitter at Walker Mail, Doug on Twitter at Doug Branson LOH, and the show handle on Twitter at Locked On Hornets. We'll also have Nick Carboni joining us for the following 2 segments, but we're going to open up with a couple of the leading topics. Before we do any of that, I need to ask Doug a question. 5th game in a row against the New Orleans Pelicans. Clutch time victory for the Hornets. Mm-hmm. Does this mean that the Big Dub hat makes an appearance?
Well, let me answer your question, Walker, by asking a question of my own. Do you currently at this time, camera zooms into Doug's shot, do you currently at this time see the Big Dub hat hanging in its normal place on my basketball goal over my left shoulder?
I do not see it. So let me answer your question with just an outright answer. No. Here's another question.
Uh-huh.
Does that mean you're going to wear it?
Yeah, of course it means I'm going to wear it.
He's putting it on. 5th win in a row, and Doug Branson is getting rid of the Fender hat. We're going back to the intro.
I don't know.
We're putting montages out there. It is a beautiful day for the Charlotte Hornets, the day after a victory, and Doug looks fantastic with the big W. Now, how big is this W, Doug? Like, is it just because of the arbitrary meaning we put behind the value of 5? Was it truly a good victory? Was it context of it being a clutch time situation where the Hornets have struggled? Why are you wearing it today?
Well, I don't think that the number 5 is arbitrary. It represents their tied for their longest winning streak of the season, going back to when they were beating the likes of the Washington Wizards when the Wizards were good, and the Golden State Warriors, top teams in the East and West. They faced good competition. They beat the Mavericks. I didn't get a chance to talk about that game. And this one was a rock fight. I mean, it was a defensive struggle for both teams, and both teams were making miscues. It came down to just shot making, clutch play, and no more clutch shot than the LaMelo floater. Just delivering, and we've seen that now more from LaMelo. They are moving the clutch offense more in LaMelo's direction, and I love it, and he's delivering.
Man, you're right. Not only we're going to get to the most clutch moment for LaMelo, but leading up to it, the ball was in his hands. Yep. He was running the offense. You had that pick and roll where he kicks it out to PJ Washington, which eventually leads to the Mason Plumlee dunk. You have the slip pass to Mason, not necessarily slip, but just a really quick off the pick pass to Mason, and he dunks it. And then at the very end, the most clutch play of them all, LaMelo takes Jackson Hayes ISO after he gets switched on him, goes left, takes off from the left elbow, and is able to hit a floater, which that was working for him last night, along with the 3-point shot. Hits the floater, reminiscent of what he did against Milwaukee when he was going to his left, and he hit that shot. What did you make of LaMelo, not only just the last series, but even the last shot that he hit to beat the Pelicans?
Well, that floater was just really impressive and an example of how LaMelo in a split second can break down a defender. Jackson Hayes is a big, but he can move. It's not like he can't guard up top. It wasn't a given that LaMelo was going to get by Jackson Hayes necessarily, but Jackson tried to take away left, but he made this little hop maneuver, and as soon as LaMelo saw the hop, he popped and drove it hard.
Hop, pop, and roll. That's what.
And I think we need a name for LaMelo's floater, because it's more than a floater. It doesn't look like the floaters that when I think floater, I think of the Derrick Rose floater, right? I mean, who do you think of when you think floater?
You have Steve Nash, probably. Like
great.
Steve Nash had a really nice floater, I believe. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think the LaMelo's floater, that's a good example, Steve Nash, Derrick Rose. I don't think his floater looks like that. It's weird. He almost like arches his whole body as he makes the floater. It's hard to describe, but the way that the ball just hangs in the air, it looks like it's zero gravity. And I know he has like a UFO thing going on. He's not from here. That's kind of his branding. So I think zero G. I mean, I think that's the zero G shot. I'm going to call it right now and say that's LaMelo's signature move. It's the zero G floater. It's beautiful.
Is this the latest thing like fetch that you're going to try to make happen?
Well, no, what I do, I make things happen, and then the Hornets or other players steal it from me. Gotcha. So when you see someone call this the zero G floater at some point, I just want you to understand this is what happens. These are my gifts that I give to the world.
Thank you. We appreciate you for that. I will say on this floater in particular, he did cover a lot of ground. If you go back and watch it, when he jumps from the left elbow, I feel like he does kind of dive into the paint a little more so. And he hits the shot. Yeah, he had zero G, as you might say.
Zero G.
LaMelo was able to hit that shot, and really it was impressive. So that was one clutch moment. Especially from LaMelo, right? What we got to see from him offensively. And then defensively, Miles Bridges, PJ Washington are both a part of the biggest defensive play of the game. Here's James Borrego discussing that play after the game, what his thought process was and what they were trying to do.
Yeah, we were trying to, obviously take away the three. We were up on CJ. We knew it was probably going to go to CJ or Devontae, and it went to CJ, and, our guys were up aggressively, and I call that a trap. And everybody else rotated and adjusted accordingly. But we executed extremely well those last 2 minutes on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively.
They did execute it well. I thought it was funny that he felt the need to explain to us that he calls that a trap. I think most people call it a trap.
He calls it a trap.
He calls it a trap. That's what you try to do to me. When you ask me this LaMelo Ball divisive question, and then you don't answer it, and I have to answer it. Of course, we're running out of time because this is what this podcast does. In fact, we're probably a little over on this first segment already. And then you ask me that question, I have to go, where it makes it say, I have to say something just a tiny bit bad. Can you cut that? Let's do that. Let's actually get just that snippet of, we call that a trap. So that we can play it anytime. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Anytime I throw a dead fish in your lap, or
that's right.
It wouldn't even be a dead fish. It would be a detonator fish. The old bomb fish that I throw in your lap every time LaMelo comes up, because I know what the YouTube commenters, I know how they feel about you. About you and LaMelo and James Borrego. So
I call that
your
a trap.
Problem, Doug. Yeah, it's a trap. You are a trap. Replace that. Admiral Akbar, the new James Borrego. Vice versa. It's a trap.
I call it a trap. That's
before we transition to the next segment, great defensive play. CJ McCollum, previous to that, ISO against Cody Martin, the better perimeter defender that you want on CJ. I mean, he just cooked him. I mean, there's nothing you could do to stay in front of him. I don't even blame Cody too much. It's just like the hesitation, the crossover. It was a beautiful thing from CJ. He got in there and he was actually calling for a foul. I don't think he did, but it's like, still pretty physical. CJ hit that shot. And then Miles, after the game, he was asked about that defensive play. Someone kind of assumingly so asking, you guys weren't going to let CJ shoot that shot. He said, no, we were not going to let him shoot that. It was either going to be CJ or Devontae. Once CJ got the ball, boom, PJ is on him along with Miles, forcing it out of his hand. And then I don't even know if Devontae's last second shot would have counted. It wouldn't have hit anyway. So a great defensive play for the Hornets to win the game on.
Did you feel like you were at the game, right? So you weren't watching at home. So I was watching from Nashville. So I'm watching the local broadcast, and I got a little bit of a feeling that EC may have wanted the Devontae Graham narrative shot. Like
really, I did not watch
just part
the audio
of him,
back.
Just part of him, not the whole thing. I think it's always great when the Hornets win, and it makes it a better game to announce the ending of. But I think if you popped him with a little truth serum, I think part of EC wanted and there's a lot of love for Devontae Graham, and that makes sense because he's a hometown kid and he was great, and you saw him blossom in Charlotte. But I think just a little part of him wanted the narrative shot.
I did not know.
I'm glad it didn't go in.
EC, man, what are you doing? You're supposed to be reckless.
That's reckless. Hornets. That's a little speculation.
I don't want to speculate.
There you go. I'm good now. I'm just saying, just a little bit.
You're safe. You're safe with the with the soundbite that you played over everything. All right, we have Nick Carboni joining us in just a second. It is that time of year again as college basketball's tournament is finally upon us. We had a great first weekend to open things up from all the latest odds, contests, and player props. BetOnline.net is the number one source for all your sports betting needs and info. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Nick Carboni, we still have some individual performances to talk about. He's going to help us discuss that. And Mason Plumlee's left-handed free throw attempts. How did it all come about? That's all still to come on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
This is Locked On Hornets.
So wait a minute. Do we value players that forget plays all of a sudden? I thought we loved LeBron James because he remembered he could cite to you every single play from every game he's ever played in. Now all of a sudden we like players who have no idea what happened on the previous play.
I don't think you want him to play scared, right?
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Nick Carboni now joining us on the Locked On Hornets podcast. You can follow him at Nick Carboni WCNC. Nick was at the game last night too, talking to James Borrego after the game, or at least you tried, but they duped you. They didn't allow you to ask a question. They sent him home immediately right after, as soon as you were supposed to ask one.
Listen, I've got to film the press conference myself for our station, so I'm like way in the back. Nobody's paying attention to me back there. They're all worried about the Walker Males and the beat writers and everybody that sits up front. But I finally got one into Miles. And
well, you gotta get somebody's attention. You gotta wear something like this. You gotta wear the big dove hat.
Or I won't call them out by name. They're great guys, but the Hornets PR staff, they were both in there, but they were both buried in their phones. So I almost was at the point where I was just going to text both of them and be like, "Hey, give me the microphone."
Nick, the kids call it peacocking. In the dating scene when you want to get attention.
Trademarked by St. Peter's now, though, Doug. I'm not sure. You might have to edit that out.
All right. Well,
give Coach Holloway some credit. Yeah, please, Doug. Please give him some credit. And it was funny because they worked in a tandem. You were supposed to get the microphone from one guy supposed to be helping out, and then the other PR staff member said, "All right, that's it. James Borrego gone." And it was pretty quick.
Lack of focus on their part.
Well, look, we will give you your day here on the Locked On Hornets podcast, and we appreciate you joining us. What we were discussing was, one, the LaMelo Ball clutch shot. You can talk about that as well. Also, just running the offense. Miles Bridges, I think, gave some credit, and Mason Plumlee did, to James Borrego drawing that up, leading to a couple of Mason Plumlee dunks that he saw something, talked to him in a timeout, said, "Hey, we can exploit their defense here, add this little wrinkle," and all of a sudden they're scoring every single play with Mason slipping. PJ Washington had a really nice dribble penetration and then kick to Mason, who was able to dunk it. It felt like every single player had their moment down the stretch, eventually ending with LaMelo's last made basket. Is that how you saw it, Nick?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they trailed the whole second half until 2 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Miles hits a big three. Pelicans go down and hit a shot. PJ Washington hits that running left-handed little teardrop floater. And you're right. Mason Plumlee did what we've seen centers do to this Hornets defense time and time again. I mean, he had a wide open lane, and, credit to the team for moving the ball to get him there. And like you said, to JB for seeing that. And he just marched right down and hit a big dunk. Pelicans, bring it within three, or what was it? Two. I mean, they brought it within one, I think, again. And then LaMelo hit his floater, and he was perfect on that patented floater. And, obviously, he was taking that shot. I mean, there's no doubt he had the ball the whole time. Everybody cleared out, and he made another great, late game shot. He's done that a few times this year. I think it's kind of a taste of what's to come with him, but he did a nice job there.
You love to see it, right? Like, those are the types of clutch situations where your best player takes over in a half court set. He goes ISO, exposes a mismatch, and then delivers in the biggest moment of the game. But again, there were quite a bit of players that stepped up in each moment. And the Hornets, they've been winning some of these closer games recently, which is not indicative of what took place earlier this season. James Borrego talked about this victory, seeing growth from a lot of his players. We have that soundbite where he talks about it after the game.
Good teams do that. You find a way. You don't have your best stuff. Shots aren't falling. whatever the case, you just figure it out and you stay the course. Nobody was hanging their head. There's a resilient group out there. We found a way to win a NBA basketball game. Really proud of the group that closed it as well. You know, I thought Mace came in, re-energized us with his physicality, and really turned that game for us. But great execution down the stretch too. I think closing out these games, our guys are doing a much better job closing out these close games.
Yeah, I think they were able to showcase all of these close games, and it was great to see exactly what they were able to do. Is that what's okay? I'm sorry. I'm seeing some weird graphic stuff. Is everything okay? Is everything good?
Everything's fine. Keep it moving. I have a baby.
Yeah, it's fine. Doug has a baby, but he's right. We have seen a lot of growth from this Charlotte Hornets team where you go back to, what was it, the Spurs game? That one kind of came down to the wire. And you see this game. You saw the Atlanta Hawks game where it was supposed to go down to the wire, but Hornets didn't let it happen. PJ explodes for his, I think, 13 points in the fourth quarter. And I think that's been a huge sign and a really good one for the Hornets as the season comes to an end.
Yeah, during this 5-game winning streak, their kind of scoring margin and their wins has been pretty high, actually. But yeah, they have had to close, against New Orleans. Obviously, they had it come down to the final defensive possession, and they executed that. They did not let CJ McCollum get a shot one-on-one from three, not even a contested shot from one defender. They were all over him. They frustrated him, and they didn't allow New Orleans to get a good look at all. Against Atlanta, I mean, it was close until those closing 3 or 4 minutes when PJ Washington exploded and his offense is coming around to kind of match what he's done late games in defense. But yeah, I mean, in this win streak, they've either put teams away, at least by mid-fourth quarter, except for a couple of games, and in this one had to come back, close, and then end it on the defensive end. So it's been a nice growth spot. But I think what I'm most impressed with is they had an opportunity in front of them yet again, a 5-game homestand when they really needed to put something together and solidify their spot in the play-in and perhaps improve it. And so far, they've taken advantage of that. And I'm not sure you've always been able to trust this version of the Charlotte Hornets to do that. I think, adding the veteran presence of Isaiah Thomas and Montrezl Harrell has helped that. The offense coming around has helped that as well. But they're seemingly out of that gigantic rut that they were in, hopefully.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that, Nick. And it has been an addition of veteran presence, but also Montrezl Harrell and Isaiah Thomas are giving you actual box score contributions as well, which I expected that from Montrezl Harrell. I did not expect what we've gotten so far from Isaiah Thomas. I mean, there's an opportunity, or there's a chance that we have not only an older IT, but the old IT, or at least a fraction of that. And if you get that, that can be an advantage for this team that needs as much offense. I mean, they're starting to play more defense now, but structurally, they're not built to play like playoff level winning defense, I don't think. And so in any addition of offense that they can get is going to benefit them in the long run. But yeah, I mean, this team is not going to overwhelm any team with the amount of talent that they have. So all of these players have to get better than they were at the beginning of the season. And you're starting to see that from LaMelo Ball staying out of foul trouble, hitting clutch shots. Terry Rozier getting to his 2-point game when the ball pressure is increasing on him, and it has because he's been knocking down his 3-point shots. Mason Plumlee's hitting his free throws. Miles Bridges is hitting clutch threes. PJ Washington is taking guys off the dribble and not turning it over. I mean, it's just across the board. That's what's led to these wins.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, PJ Washington, the one where LaMelo, you run that offensive set, and there's the option to go to Miles Bridges in the corner, maybe go to Mason rolling, but he skips all of that, goes to PJ, and he attacks a closeout. I think it's Marshall going out there to the corner to try to attack him, and then boom, PJ Washington slip pass to Mason Plumlee cutting, and it's a free dunk. You get 2 free dunks from Mason. You had good shots in every single one of those situations where, and even Miles Bridges, you talk about the clutch 3. We've talked about the corner 3 being a real problem for this Hornets team, and Miles individually all season long. Where does he hit his 3 from? The corner, in order to help out the Charlotte Hornets get this victory against the Pelicans. Look, they take advantage of Brandon Ingram being out. Devontae Graham, I don't know how healthy he was. I know he was bad in this game, 1 of 8 from the field, not his best homecoming, despite the tribute video that he got. Maybe we can get to that.
I think they were on the second. New Orleans was on the second night of a back-to-back. And they have more of those opportunities coming up, some of them on the road, some of them at home, but they've got more teams coming up that will be on second nights of a back-to-back. And so hopefully, they can continue to take advantage of those opportunities.
Yeah. One other thing about this team's kind of recent turnaround over the last 5 games is during that rut. I mean, and yeah, they were playing from behind in a lot of it. Sometimes they weren't, though. I mean, before Montrez even, and then before Isaiah Thomas was here, for sure, they were truly living and dying by the 3. And even last night when they were down most of the second half, I know it's not your father's 3-point box sheet. It's 37 attempts, but it's not 50. I mean, they were finding ways, like you guys talked about, to get other good shots from the floor. And
it helps when the Pelicans were just allowing Mason Plumlee to dunk. I was just true. Why are they
wide open?
Why do they continue to let him to dunk?
This is what he can do. Like, this is how he scores, and you are allowing him to score that way. The reverse dunk, we got a patented. Mason Plumlee, just the weirdest little things that he does in the game, where left-handed free throws now. We're going to get to that in the next segment.
He was a factor, not only the free throws, but I want to talk in the next set. He was a factor in this game. We've been hard on him this season.
A lot.
I think some of it has rightfully so, but he was a factor, and he's getting better.
Yeah,
like it or not.
There are a couple of times where Mason Plumlee has actually been pretty good. Miles Bridges gave him credit along with Isaiah Thomas, kind of providing a spark in this game. Borrego talked about his physicality, but it's more so when the players talk about Mason. That's when I put a lot more credence to it than Borrego, who we've heard, kind of talk about some of these big guys before and whatever. So let's talk about Mason Plumlee in the next segment, not before we talk about Athletic Greens. So what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging, all of those things. So many things that Athletic Greens is beneficial for. Plus, it's lifestyle friendly. Whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free, it contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals, or artificial anything, while still tasting good, and it supports better sleep quality, and recovery supports mental clarity and alertness. It's the one thing with the best things in it. Athletic Greens uses the best of the best products based on the latest science with constant product iterations and third-party testing. So Athletic Greens is the real deal. To make it easy, they're going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NBA network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/NBA network to take ownership of your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Before we take the next break, I do want to also discuss RockAuto, a loyal partner of us for a long time here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's brought to you by RockAuto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning? You don't have to do that anymore. Save time and money when using RockAuto, so you don't have to spend to even up to 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or new car dealership. Go to rockauto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car or your truck. Right, Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box, so they know that we sent you. An amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Visit rockauto.com. All right, now's the time. Let's get to the Mason Plumlee left-handed free throw thing coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
You are listening to the Locked On Hornets podcast.
And Doug, don't you have an Eldon Campbell stuffed animal type thing?
Yes, I do. I got it at the last regular season home game that they had before they left for New Orleans.
I love me some Eldon Campbell, but is that the guy?
They were clearing everything out of the house because it was whatever they gave to the fans that night, they didn't have to take with them to New Orleans.
Get more Hornets analysis on LockedOnHornets.com.
To go to one of the weirder developments on the season, Mason Plumlee has just been downright awful from the free throw line this year. So incredibly bad. It's really hard to describe because it's worse than Shaq. It's worse than Ben Wallace. And this has not been a guy that had been that bad before. He was not great, but he was fine enough and really got the yips. I don't know how else to describe it. I mean, just completely forgot how to shoot the free throw. So we all think he shoots with his left hand the last 5 games because he was so bad at shooting the free throw.
5-0.
Not necessarily, right? Ever since, I do think it was that game against New Orleans was the first time he went to the left hand and was shooting his free throws like that. So, hey, we can attribute to that if you want. But also a little weird wrinkle added here with James Borrego last night. Here's the exchange between Scott Fowler of the Charlotte Observer, who was asking him a little bit about Mason, and James Borrego talking about the new development, the new way that Plumlee is shooting these free throws. Take a listen.
About 2 weeks ago, I asked you about Mason's free throw shooting. You said at this point we're just going to have to do no major changes.
I didn't see that one coming, Scott.
So was this totally on his own?
Yeah, there was an injury. There was something on the finger that almost forced him to try it in practice and try it one game, and it just caught on. And there, he found some rhythm with it. And we're just going to leave it there. And that was him. He adjusted, and it was sparked a little bit by a tweak to his right, a little something he had with his finger. It forced him to shoot that thing with his left, and I don't want to speak any more than that. What I see is we're going to leave it alone.
Why are we being so mysterious?
Well, no, he wasn't being mysterious. He was saying, I don't want to mess with it. Like, we're not going to change it back. He was like, we're not going to fix it. We're going to allow him to shoot these left-handed free throws because it's working for him now. And why in the world would you go back to the way where he was shooting 34%?
Yeah, is there a bit of like a baseball, like perfect game mentality?
Oh, yeah.
Like no one say anything about the finger or the left hand or the free. Don't even look at Mason's left hand. Don't even look at it.
It's funny, but he was totally operating under that feeling. That's exactly what he was meaning last night. We were all kind of laughing about it because it's so bizarre to switch to your left hand, but he's shooting better. He shoots 3 of 4 last night. I think you had the one egregious miss, and other than that, like, they've been close if he has been missing them, but he's been making more than certainly he was with his right. Nobody really saw the finger injury that led to this. Mason Plumlee actually spoke after the game, and he was asked a lot of free throw questions, and he said, look, it's not like he was. It was.
I'm sure he was happy to answer those.
Yeah, he did. God bless him. Thank you, Mason. But he said, it's not like I had anything to lose switching to the left hand. It's like it's no secret. I didn't have anything to lose, so might as well keep going with it. And it worked, so I'm going to keep sticking with it. Nick, what do you make of this? Like, I can't remember an NBA player doing this. I thought Granny style would happen.
Yeah, I think it was like, okay, I guess we know the real story now, but in my mind, he sat in a room with Michael Jordan and Mitch Kupchak, and they were like, it's either lefty or Granny style. So get on that.
Pick one.
Obviously, that's not the real story, but they look beautiful. I mean, compared to what we've seen from him all year, shooting 37 or 38%. I mean, these things are swishing in. I think he's 5 of 9 since the switch. I don't know if that's logged statistically anywhere, lefty or righty, but that seems to be the case. And, he, as you mentioned in the previous segment, Walker, he's played better. I mean, we've seen his assist numbers go up. They didn't rebound well comparatively to Jonas Valanciunas, which is hard to do, but he still snagged 11, I think, last night. And he's passing the ball really, really well and helping their ball movement and helping their assist numbers stay really high, which has been a key to this streak as well.
Well, he's passing the ball well. He's finishing the ball well because it seems like he finally has a little bit of confidence. And that's why all of this is important. It makes him more playable, and they need him to be playable because you saw what a difference it made. End of the third quarter, they go with that small lineup, and they start to build a little bit or come back a little bit in that game. And then in the beginning of the fourth quarter, New Orleans inserts JV back into the game against that Jonas Valanciunas against that small lineup, and he was decimating that small lineup. And you saw New Orleans start to really extend that lead into double digits, and so they had to put Mason Plumlee back into the game, and he made a huge difference, rebounding, defending JV. It all made a difference and allowed them to come back in that game. So they need him to be playable. He's only playable when he can hit some moderate amount of his free throws. He doesn't need to be perfect, but not 38%. And teams were fouling him at certain points. I mean, we've seen that happen this season where teams were strategizing around Mason Plumlee. This particular team cannot afford for another team to figure out a way to limit their offense.
Yeah, and they were doing that with Mason. By the way, Jonas Valanciunas, I tweeted this out yesterday too. I was looking at his numbers against the Hornets. He either set or tied a career high in points, rebounds, and assists. He had 24 points. He had 18 rebounds and he had 5 assists. He had 5 assists before against the Hornets beforehand, but never reached 24 mark, never reached the 18 mark, which, both are outstanding games. And he was punking them too. Like the one dunk
where I think hung on the rim. Yeah.
Where you just looked at him. I was like, that is scary. I don't know.
And Walker, back me up on this. Like, he's one of those dudes, when you see him in person, you're like, oh, okay. Like, he has such a presence. He's so long. And he would have the ball 15 feet from the hoop and just be sitting there like, all right, am I going to pass it? Like, am I going to back in? And then he'd just be like, nah. And he just spins the ball right into the basket. He's a different player.
Look, this is turning into Locked On Valanciunas, which I did not expect. But also the most Valanciunas-like moment in this game is when Jalen McDaniels tries to drive and JV doesn't move a single muscle. And it looks like McDaniels is seeing stars after he gets just immediately thrown into the ground. He's like, Valanciunas is just like this, holding his hands up, saying whatever, man. And then he pats him on the back. Like, look, I do that to a lot of dudes. JV was awesome.
We've mentioned a kind of a crazy scenario where Zion Williamson ends up on the Hornets in a trade with the New Orleans Pelicans. Like, I wouldn't mind JV coming back in that kind of deal. Add a little rim protect. You add a little frustration every once in a while, but you add a little rim protection. You add a little physicality down low. I mean, he was popping a few threes. Wouldn't mind it.
One of the sneakier, awful matchups where it's like, it's not so sneaky. He's tall. Of course, he's going to be a bad matchup, but he's also so physical. Before you had a Trez. And I think, look, PJ had 5 fouls last night, and it was all because he was trying to, body up a JV, and really it was tough for him, and so that guy's physical as hell, and he always has been against the Hornets.
By the way, when JV did hang on the rim, I think Del Curry on the broadcast called it a hang job, which like
his bobblehead won't say that though.
It kind of sounded like the other thing that you may be thinking of, that I won't say because YouTube. I want to make sure we get a G rating on YouTube, but so we can make as much money as possible. It's all about the money. But hang job. I think that we need to probably just limit.
That's not going in the next. That's not going in the next bobblehead. You're right. That a trap. And by the way, what did Eric Collins say to that? Was he just like, okay, moving on? Did he just?
No, it was a total classic. Good move. Just drop it. Keep it moving.
I wish Eric Collins would have emphatically said that. I wish that was a call from Eric Collins. A hang job.
Oh, the hang job.
I think it's probably nice to end there. Mason Plumlee shoot left-handed free throws. The Charlotte Hornets are winning because of it. Oh, yeah, and I guess LaMelo Ball has something to do with it. Clutch time, offense, running everything, and, of course, hitting the last basket at the end of the game. Final thoughts, Doug? You had something to say, or are you ready to move on? Did you want to say anything else that was borderline dirty?
Well, no, I just wanted to thank Nick Carboni for joining us. Bonioni. Love it when Nick's on the show. And Nick, if the PR staff continues to ignore the great questions that you have, I will let you borrow the big dub. I'll mail this to you.
I'm going to need it. Yeah. I got to get some attention back there. Nobody's looking my way lately.
Sure. I think that is the thing that's going to help you ask more questions, is to look ridiculous going into the press.
Well, it's area. Like, reporters used to wear the hat with the little piece of paper. Yeah, the press card.
Scoops Callahan on everybody. Call everybody champ and talk about the bee's knees. That might help.
Yeah, see?
Yeah, Scoops Carboni here. I'm going to break this story wide open. All right,
Nick, you can't smoke in the press conference.
You
could just fake smoke. Just have the two fingers. Yeah, hey, listen.
Nobody's going to want to answer your questions if you do any of this. Don't listen to this. This is awful advice. Thanks for making Locked On Hornets your first listen every day. Go follow Nick on Twitter. I promise he's actually a professional. Follow him on Twitter at Nick Carboni, WCNC. Now make your second listen Locked On NBA. Locked On experts covering the biggest stories around the NBA every Monday through Friday in less than 30 minutes. It's free and available wherever you get your pods. Thanks to you. Thanks to Nick. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be back with you tomorrow.